I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's now 6:30 on March the 5th, 2019. Welcome and thank you all in Northport for having us here tonight. This is great. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome all of you in the audience, and if you wish to speak during the hearing of citizens, please pick up a card either to my right or to my left and fill it in legibly, please, and hand it off to Kathy Tompkins. I almost said Tish, and don't ask me why, so that I may call on you at that appropriate time. And now we'll have the flag salute. Please stand while the Northport High School leads us in the flag salute under the direction of Commander Steve Bartek.
Left face, march, left, left, right, hold right, hold, present, pillars.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colors. Ready, cut. Right face, march, left. Forward, march. Left.
With us tonight, we have Debbie McDowell, Vice Mayor of the City of Northport. Deb, where are you? In the back. Jill Luke, sitting here in the front. Jill. And Peter Lear, the City Manager. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Appreciate that. We have a student representative, one Stephanie Hawkins, who I've known from being on the Education Foundation. Stephanie, welcome. It's our pleasure to have you. I've given her a certificate in appreciation of her being here with us tonight. What I'd like for you to do, Stephanie, if you would, is to just tell us a little bit about your future and what you're doing at Northport High.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Hawkins. I serve as the student body president at Northport High School. I'm a student board member on the Education Foundation of the Sarasota County. After high school, I plan to get my bachelor's degree of Science in Biochemistry, and then receive my DMD and be a doctor of medicine in dentistry.
That's just wonderful. We're glad you're here. And now we have some special presentations for our first presentation tonight, and all of these really are representative of what's going on in our wonderful Northport community. The first one is a presentation on Women's History Month, and that's something near and dear to my heart. So I'd like to honor our very own presentation directed by Dr. Dawn Clayton, who's the Supervisor of Pupil Support Services. Dawn.
Well, good evening. Thank you. So good evening to our school board members, our student representative, and of course, our superintendent, and all of the special guests here within this audience at Northport High School, or Northport tonight, excuse me. As you may be aware, March is Women's History Month, and tonight we are thrilled to take the time and the opportunity to have a very special presentation to recognize the many accomplishments of women who have paved the way for our modern day accomplishments. A brief excerpt from the 2019 Presidential Proclamation on Women's History Month reads as follows. This month, we honor women who have fought for equality and against the status quo, and who have broken the bonds of discrimination, partiality, and injustice for the benefit of all. These women created a legacy that continues to inspire generations of women to live with confidence, to have a positive impact on their communities, and to improve our nation every single day. So this evening, in honor of Women's History Month, our curriculum department, led by Mrs. Kelly Ellington, has organized a very special presentation in honor of our very own educators right here in Northport. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Kelly Ellington, our curriculum director, to the podium so she can give you a rundown of the amazing events we have planned for you.
Good evening, Mrs. Goodwin, board members, Superintendent Bowden, Mr. Hardy, our student representative, Stephanie Hawkins. It's very nice to be here tonight and in honor of this celebration. What some people may not know is that during that Women's History Month wasn't always a month. So during this month, we want our students and staff to recognize the ongoing accomplishments of our notable women. One day in March was designated to honor women's contributions. This was a global celebration of the economic, political, and social achievements of women. This day, International Women's Day, took place for the first time on March 8th, 1911. At that time, many countries around the world celebrated with demonstrations, educational initiatives, and other customs. It was in 1980 when President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th as Women's History Week. 6 years later, the National Women's History Project successfully petitioned Congress to expand the event to the entire month of March. So what we would like to do is share with you a brief video that was actually a commercial Microsoft put out 2 years ago during Women's History Month. It's very powerful, very brief, but powerful. So let's watch.
In school, it was always a male inventor. I just realized.
I didn't really know that stuff. And you're surprised because they only talk about Einstein and Benjamin, but you never hear a girl in conversation.
To know that there were women before me, it gives me like motivation that I can invent something and make maybe like a change in the world, and that would be really cool.
Our aim is to help our students learn about women inventors, as well as women scientists, women doctors, politicians, women lecturers, authors, poets, mathematicians, and teachers, of course. We want to honor teaching as a noble profession, and we want to honor our very own women in education who are making history every day. So this evening, we are recognizing the contributions of our very own educators and also spotlighting a future educator. This year's theme for Women's History Month is Visionary Women, Champions of Peace and Nonviolence. And I can't think of women more committed to these traits than our teachers. They spend countless hours working towards the betterment of our students. Whether it's on the kindergarten playground or in a restorative circle, our women educators reject violence as counterproductive and stress the need to restore respect, establish justice, and reduce the causes of conflict as the surest way to peace. So at this time, I would like to introduce Northport High School student, Sydney Burrows. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself, and then she'll introduce our current teacher being recognized, and we'll go from there. So Sydney, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sydney Burrows. I'm a senior at Northport High School and a future mathematics educator. I am the president for our Florida Future Educators of America Club and have committed a plan to be a major in education. Growing up with devoted passions both towards learning and math, becoming a teacher always seemed like a right choice for me. Due to constant exploring in the woods as a child, learning anything new continued to amaze me. Any astonishing information found, I would show others, especially to my 3rd through 5th grade English teacher, Miss Allison Brannick. In return, she'd always added information even further past what I've learned. One day, I asked her about teaching. How does she do it, and how does she get us to listen? Her reply of just liking it and treating others of how you want to be treated. Those words really stuck with me. These words I hold to heart and influence who I am today. Inspired, I continue to teach others my learnings willingly, treating them with respect. As in my life now, a teacher who not only listens, but inputs her time, effort, and respect towards me is Miss Tracy Grundish. One day, I hope to do the same for her. Listening is not the only way to teach. Take Anne Sullivan and Helen Keller as an example. Anne was partially blind, and Helen had been both blind and deaf. Anne began her task of teaching Helen by spelling letters into Helen's hand. Anne hoped to teach the connections between objects and letters, later bringing her to things like water, giving meaning to those objects and letters. Speaking of great teachers, I would like to say tonight we are thrilled to honor one of our own Sarasota County teachers who has made a tremendous impact in our district, Miss Sue D'Angelo. She has taught for 30 years. Most of the time, she's taught 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. For the last few years, Miss D'Angelo has been making an impact as a math program specialist. During this time, she has worked with over 900 elementary teachers in grades K through 5 in all 26 elementary schools to maximize math instruction. Since Miss D'Angelo also taught at the University of South Florida for many years, many of her current teachers have been privileged having her as a math professor. And some of them are here tonight, so I'd like to bring you home. Yeah. Here we go.
Thank you, Sydney, and thank you, everyone, for this very special honor. I am deeply touched by the sentiments. I'm truly just doing what I love to do every single day. It doesn't seem possible that I have been teaching and working in the Sarasota County School District for 30 years now. I have to say, I am just as passionate about the journey I have been on to make a difference in the lives of students and teachers as I was the very first day I entered the classroom. Some people look for a certain libation to make them feel good. Not me. All I need is to see happy children, their excitement about being in school, and then to see the joy on a child's face when that light bulb goes off in their mind after they've worked hard and persevered and then finally understand, yes, I've got this. My greatest joy as a teacher, trainer, is when a teacher says to me, well, I was a little reluctant about giving these ideas and trying them because I'm not sure if this is really going to work. But I tried it, and I am amazed at what my students can do. I had no idea they could do that. And all I can do is just smile and think to myself, I knew you could do it. Teaching is a craft to be continuously fine-tuned. Our students need to feel safe and supported, and we must meaningful experiences that challenge them to think and reason and share their creative ways of approaching a problem. Over the years, I developed a passion for teaching mathematics. It was fostered, actually, by a former Sarasota County curriculum specialist. Her name is Dr. Mary McClendon. Speaking of women that have made an impact, her math trainings had me riveted. I never missed a single opportunity to attend. She showed us through hands-on experiences that math can actually make sense. Well, that's not how I was taught in school. I was told this is how you do it. Now, don't ask me why. Just do it. I'm sure some of you have experienced that very same thing. Well, I quickly learned that that statement could not be further from the truth. She had me hooked, so I went back to school to learn even more, and I had just absorbed everything I possibly could about the most effective teaching strategies for mathematics that I knew in my heart would have the greatest impact. Well, next thing you know, with her encouragement and support, and of course the support of my family and everyone here in Sarasota County Schools, I stepped right into her shoes and began teaching the math methods courses at the University of South Florida. Well, I did that for 20 years, on the evenings and on Saturdays, listening to my university students, who are now teachers and some of them actually administrators in our Sarasota County schools, say, wow, math is actually fun. I wish I learned it this way when I was in school. I can't wait to get out and teach math. Now, at this stage of my career, I continue to work every single day to keep this message alive. Number one, love what you do. Be open and willing to try new things and new ideas that support and challenge your students. And as I often say, and people can attest to this that are here, I learn something new every single day. Believe in each and every one of your students' potentials to achieve. They will rise to the highest expectations if you believe in them. So, Sydney, I think about you and your dreams and aspirations of becoming a teacher. And I hope you feel the same passion that I do and recognize that you are entering the most rewarding career that anyone can ask for. Thank you again for the privilege of being a part of this great, supportive, caring school district. So it's now my pleasure to introduce this month's legacy teacher, Mrs. Deb Schultz. Mrs. Schultz taught for 29 of her 30 years in Sarasota County Schools. She began at Brookside Middle School, where she taught U.S. history, English, language arts, and math. She also served as Brookside's literacy coach. Debbie also taught 9th grade English language arts at Suncoast Polytech High School and served as the behavior specialist at Sarasota Middle School. During the final years of her career, she taught civics and U.S. history. Since she retired, Debbie has remained very involved in our Sarasota County schools by volunteering at McIntosh Middle School.
Well, first I would like to thank you for asking me to come and represent all the retired educators here in Sarasota County. Now that I'm retired, when I meet a fellow retired teacher, they always try to recruit me into whatever community project they're working on at the time, and then I try to return the favor by recruiting them to whatever community project I'm working on, and then we laugh because we're all so busy and we're happily busy. So we love this community and we have a great deal to give it. So again, let me thank you for being their spokesperson. Little reality.
Teaching is a challenging profession. And let me tell you why. Your students are in possession of this pesky thing called free will. And your job is not to dominate or crush their free will. It is to captivate it. And you captivate it in a way that's going to help them grow up to be happy and productive citizens of our great country. Not an easy job. But I think that if you are intelligent enough and, what's the word I want to use? Intelligent and tenacious enough, and if you have the courage to have a reflective practice, then you're going to be a great teacher. And that's going to allow you to do so much good in the world. Now, on the other hand, the core characteristic of teaching is that it is a joyful profession. And I'll share a little bit of that joy. Today I was working with an 8th grade boy at McIntosh Middle School, and we were having an extended discussion. And in the course of that discussion, this boy revealed to me a very deep and rather mature understanding of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Now, you might laugh. We laughed. We smiled. We had grins on our faces. He was joyful because he knew that he had conquered a concept that, frankly, many of our adult citizens don't get. And I was joyful because I knew I had some little bitty piece in getting him there. And I can't tell you how important it is for you to hold on to the joy of teaching. Because you will have those days that are difficult, and you need that joy to balance you out. And on behalf of all retired teachers, if you ever need any advice or encouragement, I guarantee you we will not restrain ourselves. So, thank you.
So at this point, as you can see, we have selected an amazing future educator, a stellar current educator, and an amazing retired educator that are our very own within Sarasota County, and we're so proud of them. So we would like to invite them to the front and also invite our school board members for a photo opportunity, and we have a little gift and certificate for them as well. We have a photo op. We didn't tell you about the photo op. That's why we're going to come right here.
Female governor or president. Right.
I have had certain people in the community who have questioned me in terms of women's studies and women's involvement, so I'm really happy about this, and I'm particularly happy that we chose a future teacher, a current teacher, and a former teacher to highlight, because teaching is such a wonderful and important profession, and we all feel very strongly about that. The next presentation, I'd like to invite Chris Renoff, our Elementary Education Executive Director, to the podium. Chris.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair. First of all, that was fabulous. Congratulations to you. That was, I mean, how do you follow that? So, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent, Mr. Hardy. Ms. Hawkins, good to see you. What an honor it is to be here in this great city of Northport this evening. And it is so fitting that we are here today, right now, to recognize two very special accomplishments. First off, to officially introduce Mr. Brad Pornacek as the new principal of Cranberry Elementary School. Words can't express what a proud and exciting moment this is for Brad, his family, all of us, the city of Northport, and of course the Cranberry family. As you all know, Mr. Pornacek is only the second individual to be named principal of Cranberry since the school first opened its doors in 2002. And as Brad knows, he had the opportunity of a lifetime. He had the opportunity to work and learn alongside one of Sarasota County and Northport's best instructional leaders, citizens, colleague, and dear friend to us all, Principal Linda Daniels, who, although recently retired, remains very active and involved in support of all students and this community. Brad knows, and it was a kind of a running joke for Brad and anybody else that was thinking about going for the position of principal at Cranberry, Brad knows that he has big shoes, or in Linda's case, heels, to fill. But rest assured, he is the perfect selection to lead Cranberry as principal. You see, as we went through the process of selection, screening, etc., it was very evident that the students, the staff, and the parent community had a deep appreciation and affection for him. Having served as assistant principal of Cranberry for a year and a half before he was actually selected as principal, Brad took full advantage of the opportunity to build relationships and get to know and understand the culture of high expectations and the tradition of excellence that exists amongst the staff and within Cranberry school community. Mr. Pornacek has reassured me, the staff, the students, and the families on multiple occasions that he is committed to promoting the school's vision of preparing Cranberry students to make tracks toward excellence in a safe, caring, and respectful environment which promotes lifelong learning and socially responsible students. Now, the last time I came before you to introduce a new principal, if you remember, there were 4 of them. Well, we have Brad this evening, so the spotlight is on Brad, and I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to share some fun facts that you may not know about Brad. So first and foremost, prior to his job at Cranberry, Brad served as assistant principal at Northport High from 2014 to 2017. Before that, he was our school district's K-12 science curriculum specialist, working to advance STEM learning in all of our schools. He was also an honors physics, honors chemistry, physics, chemistry, and AP chemistry teacher at Northport High from 2005 to 2011. Prior to his tenure with Sarasota County Schools, Mr. Pornacek was a biology, anatomy, physiology teacher at South Range High School in North Lima, Ohio. Mr. Pornacek has a master's degree in education and administration from Westminster College and a bachelor's degree in science and secondary education from Youngstown State University. So he not only understands, but he gets that K-12 continuum. And now I'm not sure anyone knows this, other than people closest to Brad. Brad loves Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I don't know which flavor, but it comes a close second only to spending any waking moment that he has with his wonderful family. So his wife, teacher extraordinaire, Cindy, and children, Brianna and Eli, who are here to celebrate him this evening. Please stand. Before I ask Brad to step forward and say a few words, I just have to highlight a written piece that was shared with me by students in Miss Young's second grade class. My principal, Mr. Pornichuk, his eyes are like shimmering blue sapphire. He's made quite the impact over there. It's a lasting impression. His hair is like a new pencil. His face a fuzzy peach. His voice like a sweet bird singing. His smile like a snowman smile. And his laugh like a joyful song. Now, on behalf of all of us here, all of your colleagues, everyone at Cranberry and the city of Northport, Brad, one, we wish you many, many, many days of success and happiness as the new leader of Cranberry Elementary. But with that, we know it's probably going to come with some long days, maybe even some longer nights, possibly some weekends, and even vacations. Because I know Brad, he's a planner, and he'll be thinking every second, what can we do strategically to keep and maintain and excel at Cranberry? So I thought, and I said, what can I do to support this brand new principal? So Brad, I picked up a little something that I hope you will appreciate and cherish and utilize in times of reflection and challenge. And so with that, Brad, this embossed silicone bracelet that says WWLD, what would Linda do? Go Cougars, congratulations, the principal of Cranberry Elementary, Mr. Brad Pornichuk.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's fish food ice cream from Ben & Jerry's if you haven't tried it. Thank you, school board members, Superintendent Bowden, our student representative. What an honor this is for me. Chris stole so much of what I wanted to say and filling you all in on some of things about myself. But first, I am so honored to take on the role of the second principal at Cranberry Elementary School. You know, I'll be honest, when I got there, it's not just the school. And when I think about Cranberry, Linda built that school. Mrs. Daniels built that school, and not only the physical building, and seeing the photos of her working there with the breaking ground and the construction of the actual building itself, she built so much more. She built not just the policies and the procedures and all those things, she built an amazing staff. She built an amazing culture and amazing expectations that have made that school such a centerpiece in Northport that it's going to be a tough act to follow. But like Chris said, I'm ready for that challenge to do that. I also had a great opportunity to go there and learn from her and be the assistant principal of the school, which, like Chris said, it gave me that opportunity to build relationships, to learn what's made that school so amazing, and to note now as I plan ahead for the future, what are those foundational pieces that need to continue that's made Cranberry absolutely one of the best schools. And I know we're about to feature another school here in Northport that's doing a great job, but I'm going to still say it's the best school, not just in Northport, but in Sarasota County. And so I feel so lucky and blessed to be able to have had that experience with Mrs. Daniels and to learn from her. And the other part that I want to share and that you might not know is this is so important to me and so special to me because this is my home. Northport is my home. My wife and I, Cindy, we moved here back in 2005. My in-laws that are also here tonight moved down here as well because we heard so many great things about this community and we wanted to be a part of it. So we moved here. My wife started teaching over at Glen Allen. I was teaching at Northport High School. Our kids, both Brenna and Eli, attended Lamarck with my wife. They are now, my daughter, believe it or not, is a freshman at Northport High School, and my son is a sixth grader at Heron Creek. They're both in the ACE program, and so this is our home. My kids have both played and participated in sports in Northport in the community. As my son, he's ready to go to baseball practice here shortly, so he's ready to go. I've helped coach the Little League teams here. So this means something more than just being a principal of a school. Being able to be a part of this community and to do good, not just for the community, but for the kids that are coming through Cranberry Elementary School. One thing I don't remember, Dr. Bowden, if you do, but one day when I was in the Preparing New Principals program, you came and spoke and you went around the room and asked every person in there, what are your goals, what are your aspirations in administration? And I said to you, to be a principal of a Northport school. That was my goal because I love this community. I can see being here as long as I can be to work with the students and staff here at Cranberry Elementary School. One thing that I do want to share before I turn it back over that I find very fitting with Northport, my son's baseball team is the Northport Pride. And that name is so important to me, and I think not just to him, because that means to me that we take pride in our community here in Northport. The people in Northport, we're hardworking people. And the other part, and I know he's going to be embarrassed, so I won't make him say it, unless he really wants to. What's the motto of your team? Hard work pays off. Hard work pays off. So to have a team that's Northport Pride, and to say that hard work pays off, that's what it's about. And Northport knows that it's a hardworking community. We're going to continue to work hard at Cranberry because we know that hard work pays off. So thank you. I'm so honored to take on this responsibility, and it's been off to a great and fast start. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me here tonight in Northport. It's been great.
Thank you, Brad. I just think you're the perfect person to be at Cranberry, and you know, you learned from one of the best. Linda is, you know, I can remember she helped us with the very first referendum back in 2001 and 2002 as she was building that school. And when I've been to see her, she's rushed me out of the door most recently before she left because she had to dress up and go tell a story to someone. And I'm sure that she's probably doing a lot more of that these days because that's her passion. I said, you need to be, you know, on the stage, you know, get into drama because she's really so good at that. But I think you're doing a remarkable job. Some of your parents are in the audience, and I've heard from some of my friends sitting in the back row there who have been very complimentary of everything that's going on in the transition and now, and I think you're exceptional. Well, so thank you very much. Anyone else for a comment? Mrs. Brown.
Yes, thank you for coming tonight, and congratulations. But I think you exemplify what it is we want to see in our school district, as did the women in the first presentation. We want people that are committed to our students and to our community. We want staff that is committed to our students. And I think, you know, I think we've got people on our board and our superintendent who are committed to this community. And that's what that Future Leaders program is, where we take teachers who want to move up, who don't want to be just a teacher. They want to give more, so that we can train them, so that we can keep the people who are proud of our community in our community, and really continue to give back to our students. And I think you totally exemplify that, as did the teachers before you. And I'm just really proud to say I'm from Sarasota County Schools, and thank you for being here.
Brad, can't run away. That's why now I know why I could never figure out where you worked, because you were in so many different places. Every time I would see you, you would be in someplace else, and I would think, Wait a minute,
Hopefully not
that
going
guy's
anywhere
science.
for a long time.
Congratulations, Brad. I'm really happy for you. You were watching you and Linda walk down the hall. You're up here and she's down here. Even with her 4-inch heels, she would still trail behind you. I'm just very glad that it all worked out and that you are the principal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one last comment on Brad's behalf and Linda's. When we came down to make the announcement and everything else, the staff was waiting with, and it was pouring down rain. I mean, it was buckets. And Brad says, she's teaching me everything she knows. Well, we not only met with the staff, in comes Linda. Dry, beautiful, looked like, just ready to present to her staff. In comes Brad. He is soaked from head to toe. And I said, she hasn't told you everything yet. So again, Brad, couldn't be happier than to have you leading. So thank you so much. So, and now, Act 2. So we all know what an amazing school district we have here in Sarasota County, but I just want to go on record to say that there's something to be said about what's happening here in Northport. As a former principal here in Northport, I totally get it. It's not uncommon for me to receive unsolicited positive notes, PR, words of thanks, etc., from folks in this community raving about their experiences with outstanding programs, teachers, level of support, or personalized service from any and all 5 elementary schools right here in Northport. But to have three schools, Toledo Blade, Cranberry, and now Lamarck Elementary, to be recognized at the state level by the East Coast Technical Assistance Conference, ECTEC as we call them, for exceeding expectations, that's truly worth celebrating. What a shining representation of excellence this is for all of our schools. Lamarck Elementary, its staff, its students, and school community were selected out of hundreds of schools from across the state of Florida to be recognized for this honor. At this time, I'm proud to introduce the principal of Lamarck Elementary, Mr. Troy Thompson, and a few representatives from his school to come forward to not only accept recognition on behalf of the entire team for Lamarck, but also to share with you some brief highlights about their amazing school, the nomination and selection process. Mr. Troy Thompson.
Good evening, school board members, Superintendent Bowden, and of course our Northport community. As a proud principal of Lamarck Elementary, I have the honor of representing an incredible group of educators and school-related employees that are deeply dedicated to the students that that are in our care. So just to put it in perspective, as Chris was mentioning, that out of 1,900 Title I schools in the state of Florida, we were one of 34 recognized for this award this year. Along with that, as we look at school grade domains, there are 7 of them that are a part of the school grade calculation. We had increases in all 7, including, and this is a little nod to Sue D'Angelo, my math teacher at USF, an 18% increase in learning gains in mathematics. And I'd be remiss to not say, obviously Sue came down to our schools, has done three years of training with our teachers, and I know that you have had an impact directly on the students' achievement at Lamarck. Now, we would like to show you just a short presentation that gives you a little insight into what makes Lamarck Elementary such an amazing place for students for learning and achievement. So, enjoy. Okay.
New concept boarding, and I like to see that they're using strategies that we've worked on in class, and they start making all of those connections. Our teachers are amazing. They look at student data, really analyze what our students need. They collaborate together to come up with interventions, and just any social services that families might need to make sure that they're at school and that their needs are being met.
She is making improvements. I am seeing an increase in her performance. Well, maybe you guys give me some idea that we're still kind of working on her doing her absolute best.
Yes, we do an amazing job working together to come up with team goals so that students can track their progress and that there's really exciting things at the end for students that reach those goals.
Lamar has a lot of family opportunities, and I enjoy going to the family nights with my kids. As a parent, I get to see what is going on in school and just have a sense of community.
What I believe really helps Lamar exceed expectations is first and foremost that our instruction is focused, that students are aware of what they're learning. Teachers plan, collaborate to make sure what is being delivered in the classroom, the opportunities for student engagement is at the highest level. The relationships between staff, teachers, families, community members, administration is really the key to moving our students forward. I do think it's the one variable that really helps us exceed expectations.
They exceeded expectations at the state level for their FSA scores, kids reading and exceeding their expectations. And it's also about how they truly embrace and wrap around support for all of their students and families, to ensure that they're engaged and getting everything they need to make sure that they can reach and exceed their full potential.
So as you can see, the family connections at Lamarck are essential to the success of our learning community. Tonight we have two of our distinguished teachers here to share their experience as a member of the Lamarck Pride. So I'd like to introduce first grade teacher, this is Natasha Sutherland, and her beautiful daughter, Emma.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to take a few minutes to tell you why Lamarck is special to me. My name is Natasha Sutherland, and I am a first grade ESE inclusion teacher at Lamarck. I have taught at Lamarck for the past 5 years. When many people go to work, the first thing they think about is the end in mind, the time clock end. It's different working at Lamarck. Here are a few reasons why. Lamarck is where I get to teach and reach young minds. They are just as excited to walk through the doors as I am to greet them at mine in the morning. The high fives and the hugs get their day started and let them know they are welcome, safe, and loved. At Lamarck, I get to teach arts integration lessons, which enhance the kids' love of learning. Our school was awarded a grant from Arts Now, and I have been fortunate enough to be the co-chair of this movement for the past 4 years. I have a home away from home at Lamarck. I work with an amazing staff, and when I'm there, it doesn't feel like work. We are a support system for each other, and we work to build each other and the school up every day. We set high expectations for the kids and for ourselves, and we hold each other accountable. I also have a daughter, Emma, who has been at Lamarck since I've been teaching there. I am appreciative of the learning and personal growth she has made in the years as a Lamarck Lion. She has grown academically and socially. She has learned to make good choices that represents the school saying, start the day the Lamarck way, with pride, purpose, and performance. When I found out that our school received the Exceeding Expectations Award, I was honored but not surprised. We always strive to be the best we can be, and I know I work among the best of the best. It's just nice that the school gets the recognition that they deserve for the work they do every day. This is my daughter, Emma. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Emma Sutherland. I am a 5th grader at Lamarck Elementary School. What makes Lamarck special to me is that I have made some awesome friends. All my teachers have been very helpful and supportive throughout my schooling here at Lamarck. Lamarck offers a number of after-school programs for students to be involved in. I like spending time with my friends at course once a week. After school, and then all the fun concerts and performances we get to do at different places. We got to go to Chick-fil-A and the Poinsettia Parade to sing. I have had a great experience at Lamarck, and I'm glad it has helped me prepare for middle school. Thank you.
our amazing 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Carrie Greco, and her grandson, Mason.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my voice regarding Lamarck and what makes it so special to me. I've been in Northport for 30 years. I remember coming to the school board meetings and asking to get a high school here, and now we have 6 elementary schools and high schools, and so it's been a long road. I began my Lamarck journey 10 years ago as a level 3 intern in Dr. Purden's 4th grade advanced class, and I've been teaching in 4th grade ever since. They can't get rid of me. I wear 2 hats, though, at Lamarck. I not only teach, but I also have 6 grandchildren that attend Lamarck, 4 of which I'm raising. My grandson Mason is here tonight. As a parent, I get to see every one of my grandchildren, kindergarten through 5th grade, the education that they are getting. It's not just about the learning, it's about the caring and the heart that the teachers put into the children. My grandchildren are excited about going to school, and that is extremely important. As a teacher, I can see the different things that make Lamarck Elementary an exceptional school, such as the white glove cleanliness that the hard workers of the custodian team provide. They're constantly coming in and making sure everything's sanitized, all the runny noses. The media specialist, it goes way beyond the scope of her books. Mrs. Jones is always making sure that she shares her love of reading. And of course, the people that I stand side by side with daily, who are the committed educators that show up every day to provide the children of Lamarck with the most they have to offer. Despite what their outside world has going on, they come in with their smiles on their faces and devotion in their hearts. I truly feel honored to be part of such an amazing school. So it's a collaborative effort. I am so blessed to work with the remarkable people at Lamarck. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Mason Greco, and I am a 5th grade student attending Lamarck. I think Lamarck is such a good school, and I love going. I have been going to Lamarck since kindergarten, and I had some really great teachers, such as Mrs. Stewart, Mrs. Jason, Mrs. Hans, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Semenik, and Mrs. Alexander. I had fun because of the way they teach in the classroom. They make learning exciting. Another reason I love Lamarck is the specials wheel. I like all the specials. One of my favorites is explorations because we learn and have fun at the same time. I will be leaving Lamarck at the end of this year and going to SMA, but Lamarck will always be like a second home to me.
Good evening. I'm Mindy Long, the assistant principal at Lamarck. So thank you for recognizing us tonight. When I was preparing for the ECTAC visit and trying to summarize all the things that make Lamarck really rise above the rest, it was easy to come up with all the programs and all the extra things that we do for wraparound services for families, but really stood out the most, and that was just a resounding theme for us, was just family. So our mascot at Lamarck is the lion, and for our cubs, we truly do every day whatever it takes for every child in our pride. So that's what really, I think, makes Lamarck special. Thank you.
So before we finish, I would be I'd be remiss to not acknowledge the assistant principal, Mindy Long, who was at Lamarck when they achieved this award. She worked with the staff to make sure that even through some changes that were happening at the school, that she made sure they were focused, that they were cared for, they were listened to. And I just want to acknowledge Ms. Long for her dedication to the school last year, and of course helping her staff last year, exceeding expectations. With that said, it is an honor to receive this award. As Chris mentioned, we now join Toledo Blade and Cranberry Elementary as 3 Northport schools that have earned this award. And of course, there's probably going to be many more in this community to come, awards because of the excellence in our elementary schools, our middle schools, and our high schools here in our community. So thank you very much. And again, thank you to this dedicated staff at Lamar.
We have some comments. Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, as a school board member, I get the ability to go around to different schools, and I get to observe a variety of events. And I got to say that one of the constants is we have a lot of high professional, well-dedicated instructional staff and classified staff wherever we go. But I've had the opportunity to go to Lamarck, and I got to observe Natasha, and she allowed me to be part of a program that they had. I've also done a couple work days there, and it's very fitting that you got exceed expectation. To see the love of reading that she instilled in those students, the level of just dedication that she had towards those students, and just to watch how those students interacted with her truly was amazing. I mean, I've got to see plenty of first grade students, so to see Natasha and the entire first grade group, I don't mean to you know, only single out her. You happen to be the one I'm going to be embarrassing.
That's
so.
okay. You also are going to make me cry, so thanks.
But I just want to say, on behalf of the school board and the citizens of Northport, I mean, what you've done for those kids in first grade, I mean, the hardest class to teach is the first grade. I mean, getting those kids in, and you had those kids sitting there. You had the kids, they were well-mannered. They stood in line. They took the books. It was just an amazing process. I got 3 kids. I can't even handle them. So I just want to thank you, Natasha, and if you can bring back the thanks to your entire first grade team, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mrs. Brown?
One thing I heard over and over in your presentation, there's one word I heard: love. You know, the love of learning, the love of reading, the love of teaching. There just seems to be a lot of love in your school, and a lot of love not only for your teachers and your students, but also for their families too. And that's a good thing. We need that. We need to make sure that in elementary school those kids get that love of learning, because they need that before they can excel when they move on. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Nathan and Emma. What a great presentation you gave, and truly, that's not easy to do, is it, to come here and speak? So that's great training for you, and I know that that was not an easy thing to do, but you did a great job, and thank you very much.
Wonderful.
I also want to thank the rest of the team. Troy, you're doing an exceptional job, and congratulations to the whole team, because this is a great accomplishment, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Bowden.
One of the things you didn't mention during your presentation that I want to make sure that we get out there is that Lamarck was one of our patients with special needs shelters during Hurricane Irma. And that is a very, very special mission. If you go on the campus of Lamarck any day, and I think I heard Ms. Greco give a shout out to the custodial staff, that campus is immaculate. That's probably not the word I would use to describe during Hurricane Irma. But the level of service that you provided to this community, and it's not kind of the mission of a school, but it was your staff as we went around and talked. And it was, they're here in our building and we're going to take care of them. And I just wanted to recognize that special role that you play in this community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I do believe that they're going to ask, I believe they want to take a picture, so if we could have you please come down again. Go out front. Yep. Go on out front.
Come on down, guys.
Great. These are things we need to talk about.
One second. You started. That's a little scary sometimes. You do one because I know how you can be out there. Good job. Good job. They get cold. You know that? Yes, of course. I'll just hug you. No. That's what I said.
I said I still look
Before the last presentation of the evening, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. We love Northport, and most of our schools in Northport are within 20 years, old, so they're all in pretty good shape in terms of age if we look around some of the other parts of the community which have schools that are 50 years old. So we're really happy about that, and we've made a lot of changes. I see comments on Facebook. I see comments on the Herald Tribune Facebook page. We really shouldn't have multiple school board members commenting about different things on that Facebook page because of sunshine laws. Right, Mr. Hardy?
Yes, ma'am.
And so we won't do that. If anyone has a question about anything that's going on, give us a call. We'll be happy to answer it. Justin can state, I'm happy to take calls. He calls me frequently. We chat about things. So tonight we thought it would be a nice idea to chat about a few things that are impacting the schools in wonderful Northport, and that is really the purpose of this last presentation. We'd like to have our own Mr. Jeff Maltzby, who is our newest Assistant Superintendent and Chief Operating Officer, and Jody Dumas, who's sitting on the front row, to discuss Executive Director of Facilities, to talk a bit about what's going on in Northport and our facilities and our schools. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Bowden, Mr. Hardy, Ms. Hawkins. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here. It is an honor to talk about the wonderful facilities we have here in the city of Northport. I'd like to join Dr. Bowden in thanking Ms. Greco for giving our facilities custodial staff a shout out at Lamarck. They do an outstanding job, and they are led by a great executive director in Jody Dumas, whom I'll have joining me in a moment. We're also joined this evening by the proud principal of Northport High School, Mr. Brandon Johnson, who happens to be a fellow Oakland Raider fan. But more importantly, tonight he accepted the opportunity to be here and share with you, if you so desire, some of his thoughts on what's going on at his campus. But I feel bad about inviting him now because I just found out that tonight is his anniversary. So I am going to be as brief as I possibly can to get him out of here so neither one of us get killed. So Brandon, thank you for being here. I'm sorry? Yeah, exactly. Over the past few years, since 2016, we have annually spent $100,000 on improvements on the athletic facilities at Northport High School, which is the same amount we spend on all of our high school facilities. So they get an equal share of what we've done there. Also, we in 2016, we spent almost $70,000 on some drainage upgrades and some other amenities, attributions, and enhancements on that campus as well. We will be doing the same thing this year. We anticipate doing the same thing next year. This year also, as of July 1st, we will receive funding to allocate $125,000 for a new ticket office for the entrance to the football field, as well as a rubberized track there. So again, Mr. Dumas is here, Mr. Johnson is here. If you have any particular questions, we certainly would be happy to answer those for you. But I'd like to try to get Brandon out of here as quickly as we can.
Any questions? Mr. Robinson?
Brandon, go to Casabiano's at University. It's on me, okay? I'm a shareholder. You got go to Casabiano's by the mall.
It's the best restaurant.
Yes.
Ever.
I would agree. I
Mention
was
my
there last
name.
night.
I mean, it is the best restaurant.
For everybody here,
But not only is he an Oakland Raiders fan, but he's also a Florida Gator fan, right, Brent? As he will be working hard at getting his doctorate there in just a couple of years. So we're real proud of him for all of his hard work. Mrs. Zucker. I almost said Mrs. Zucker.
She gets the Z wrong all the time. She calls me somebody else. I'm so glad that this presentation came up tonight because I've had some questions from the community, which I've discussed with you all, regarding the fact that Northport feels that it does not get its equal share of the funding, especially as it goes towards the athletic fields and the athletics in Northport. So that's what's been coming to me. And I'd like you to explain are your needs met at Northport? I saw a video of the fields and a fence, and I mean, what do you need?
So I know, the rubberized track was probably one of the first things to come up, and the reality was with safety and security and the funding that we needed to do, not only with Northport High School, as most people are well aware, but every elementary and every middle school kind of pushed that particular piece back. But as soon as Mr. Mosby came in, the first conversation we had was about our facilities, not just athletic facilities, our actual building. So not just the painting that's going on, the cleaning up that's going on, the new front office that we have. You, Stephanie, is well aware of also the fencing that's taking place. The second piece was I wanted to walk him out, and he did, which was very hot out there that day. But we walked out to all of our facilities to look at the athletic facilities. And the first thing that I brought up, and I know the community is well aware of this, was our actual ticket booth and the entrance into our athletic facilities, period. So there is an entrance where you walk into the tennis courts, softball fields, and the baseball field, as well as the football field. And the reality was, for me, even though it was only this is my third year at Northport High School, clearly to me there was something that needed to be done. We had a discussion about booster clubs and raising funds, and I'm well aware of that. But because I had our COO there, I felt there was the opportunity to have the discussion about what could be done to really make it where it should be. And right at that point, he said, we're going to take care of it. So that was already done within, I guess it's been about a year in the works. The second piece was we talked about scoreboards. I mean, the school has had really the original scoreboards from, I think, the last 15 years, somewhere along those lines. And the first scoreboard that's coming up, it was already approved, thanks to all you guys as well. The 19th of March, we already have the order in for the new football scoreboard as well. Next in line would be the baseball and softball. So we've had stuff done. The track was already back on. That's finished. It will get done as well over the summer. So I'm appreciative of all that. Clearly, when I got there, at least for me, because I'm on my fifth school, I've been able to see around different communities, not just Northport, being at Lamarck, seeing Booker, all these other schools, that I did feel like there were things that needed to be done. And the fact over the last 3 years that I've seen changes to not only our campus, academic side, we have new renovations coming up in 2 years. You guys are probably well aware, with our HVAC as well as our science rooms will be fully renovated. I will not say the full budget. I'll let him tell you that. But that is important not only to the community, but I'll be honest, also to our staff. A lot of our staff members have been there since the beginning. And as well as our students who travel, just like Mrs. Hawkins, she's been to different schools, she's well aware what they look like. So I'm very confident that we have everything we need right now. Academically speaking, everyone's probably well aware. We have grown over the last 2 years I've been there, and I expect for that to continue this year as well.
Well, I had a couple of questions about the Boosters Club.
Please.
And, we have some Boosters Clubs in other schools that are making a big impact. The Jumbotron, or what I call the video display board at Venice High School, so that it makes it sound like it's not a Jumbotron, was raised all by community money and by the Booster Club. It was not funded at all by the school district, and I think it's always important to point that out. But if there is something that we can do to have you get some ideas from some of the other people, like in Venice or at Riverview or other schools, they have offered to help. So, to see some modeling of the things they did. They went to the community, they went to the Absolute Aluminums and to the PGTs and the other big corporate providers, and they stepped up and helped. So I think that could be done, things could be done that way and in that way as well. So I would say, let's look at some of those opportunities as well.
And I
Dr.
will say,
Bowden?
we have a new booster club that started this year that is doing a wonderful job, as well as an athletic director that's been there the last 2 years. So there have been changes that have taken place as a result of things that we've needed, not only just around campus, but around our athletic facilities.
So Brandon made reference to the main office renovation that's going to take place. If you picture Northport High School is on a huge piece of property. Matter of fact, it's the biggest footprint of any of our high schools. And at the time it was constructed, we said spread out and take advantage of all of this property. So that school was built really in a different era. One of the most, probably the biggest difficulty as we look at that school from a safety and security standpoint is it's a 2-story building, and they are all linked through, I call them catwalks, but you can get to the various buildings. But the elevator is right out in front of the school. You can go to the elevator without going to the main office and stating your purpose. And so when we move to single points of entry, the elevator has to move into the main office. Well, elevators don't move. So the main office has to go to the elevator. And so you're going to see a dramatic change in the way you interact with the main entrance at Northport High School, because the simple fact of the matter is that building was cutting edge 25 years ago. And that's how we built schools. Nice green, open spaces, outward facing doors. And so it's one of our biggest fencing projects, but what we're doing in the main office will be one of the, not one of, the most dramatic things that we do. And so that you understand why that is, it's about that elevator. And for the life of me, I can't explain why that elevator is where it is, but it's not moving, and we're going to make it work.
I appreciate it.
Mrs. Zucker, would you like to say something?
Thank you for explaining that. And I wouldn't have known where to put the elevator either. So, but I think that gives our audience a better understanding of what the challenges are at Northport and how we're trying to address them. We're not just ignoring Northport. We never have. As a matter of fact, I was on the board in 2000 when Northport High School was built. So I remember the clamor for that. And now there's the Technical Institute is there as well. So we have not forgotten Northport, never. You're all part of us. So any of you who feel that you're not, just call me and I'll be glad to talk to you and tell you anything that's going on. Because I have heard that Northport is again a stepchild. I don't think that's what you're hearing tonight. Thank you.
And I would just say that the graduation on that football field last year was the best.
Thank you.
I mean, you were together and it was precision. And of course we had, Amazon provided us with raincoats under everyone's seat. And they were needed. But it was really quite an exceptional experience thanks to you. And it was very well organized and very well done. Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I too appreciate that we have booster clubs for all of our other schools. And, boosters, paid for the Jumbotron at Venice High and all that. But I know that there's also a problem, having a new school. You don't have those graduates who have gone on to college and come back and built a business and all of that. They're still young, so it's harder for you to build that block of boosters that some of the other schools have. But you're going to have a lot of work to do. But maybe you can reach out beyond your community to the businesses and stuff like that. And now with the internet and Facebook and whatever it is those kids are on today, we'll be able to keep in touch with them to help them, build that boosters and at least they'll be coming home for, the reunions and all of that, and get them signed up for the booster club as soon as you can. And the parents too. And it's not just parents because there are community members besides the parents of the schools that can be boosters for your school. And but I do understand that it's not as easy for you as it is for Venice or Riverview to get those boosters in there.
We make no excuses, though. I promise you. We're going to do our best.
Madam Chair, if I may, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that Brandon has a new neighbor coming to his community right around the corner, not too far, that I may be able to. There's a rumor that I might know somebody with the Atlanta Braves to be able to try and create a partnership with him there.
Nice.
So we'll see what we can do to reach out and make the connections that may be necessary to have an endorser, a sponsor, and not to put any pressure on the Atlanta Braves. They promise to be a great partner in this community. And this may be a wonderful opportunity for them to get started. So we'll see what we can do.
Great.
Yeah.
We can give you a list of the people who, or look at the people who helped build that stadium too.
Yes.
Because they might be working with us and they might be potential boosters.
That is true.
I think Saturday night's a good night to celebrate.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd just like to mention that Bridget Ziegler is not with us tonight, but she is on the telephone. Bridget delivered a beautiful baby girl last Friday morning, and of course she would be diligent and be on the phone with us. So Bridget, we're so happy for you and baby Fallon, and we're very glad that you're here, and I just know that that you're going to be back on the swing of things before long. But please take care of yourself and the baby, and we're happy that you're with us on the phone. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone, and I really appreciate the beautiful flowers the board sent over, and we feel very blessed. But I'm glad technology allows me to be doing my job, but I will keep it on mute so that there's no technical difficulties.
Thank you. And next we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Bowden.
Yes, due to the number of special presentations, I'll keep it brief, but we would certainly be remiss if we didn't recognize that today is the first day of the legislative session. And so all eyes and ears are on Tallahassee. There are a number of education initiatives being proposed that are working their way through committees and in various different forms. So we will keep you posted as we work with our lobbying firm, Capital City Advisors. But we are in business in Tallahassee, so things will move relatively quickly here the next 2 months. In that regard, the board had charged staff with setting a meeting with our charter school partners just to keep track and kind of open that line of communication. That meeting has been scheduled for March 12th at 1 o'clock. Steve Crump at the Suncoast Academy has agreed to host that meeting. So we will be sharing the information we're receiving from our lobbyists. We'll be kind of finding out what they're hearing. We will publicly notice that meeting in case board members wish to attend. It's not a command performance, but you're certainly welcome there, and we will publicly notice in case more than one wish to attend that meeting. That concludes the superintendent's report.
And I would just add that the Innovations Committee will be meeting, I think, tomorrow, and the full Education Committee in the House is meeting late on Thursday.
How many bills are passed on education? 365.
How many what?
I think there's currently 360 bills being proposed regarding education in the House and Senate. The focus seems to be on education this year.
Well, and I think our teachers especially need to be paying attention to what's happening in Tallahassee. I know a lot of them, not a lot of them, several of them received a $6,000 bonus last year for being in the top SAT or ACT scores and highly effective. It looks like that may go away. And also there was it 6 and 800 or 8 and 1200 for highly effective that didn't have the SAT scores.
Yes, the current Best and Brightest program provides for an $800 bonus for teachers rated as effective, another $1,200 for teachers rated highly effective, and in addition to that $1,200, another $6,000 for teachers rated highly effective that have an SAT, ACT score at the 80th percentile or higher. So as you've said, a revamp of Best and Brightest seems to be on everyone's radar screen. It was one of the first proposals put forth by the governor. It is in the Senate Bill 7070, which is a all-encompassing education bill coming out of the Education Committee. And so we know Best and Brightest is changing. We've not seen the House initiative, and then the negotiating will begin. But yes, all eyes and ears should be on best and brightest.
And I know I get information from the State Teachers Association, the FEA United, but our school district, our school teachers union isn't part of that. And I haven't seen where they've sent anything out to their employees, but it is going to make a difference to all of our teachers and what their earnings will be next year, depending upon how this legislation goes. So they need to be paying attention to it and seeing where that goes so that they at least can start planning for budgeting for next year.
I do want to go on record that we shared some correspondence with SCTA last week, really anchored in best and brightest, is that our teacher evaluation system is contained in our collective bargaining agreement. Our collective bargaining agreement expires for both instructional and classified on June 30th, and we have made an offer to them to begin the collective bargaining process. And if that were able to conclude by the end of the year, any changes to the teacher evaluation system that they found favorable to their members, we could apply to the 18-19 school year. If we don't conclude negotiations by the end of the year, we do lose the option to apply any changes to the current year. Once the year ends, you have to lock in teacher evaluations. We have not received a response to that offer, but we are ready to begin the bargaining process.
Mrs. Brown?
And on that note, our last meeting, there was a lot of brouhaha over contracts. I made an outreach to the teachers union to come to the table and start working with us. And I know I sent an op-ed to the newspaper, but they haven't printed it yet. But I was disturbed to see that, on the 22nd after that meeting, 3 days after the meeting, we got an email was sent out from the union, telling the teachers union that, how we're going to just strip away all their rights and take the rights away from our classified and start contracting out, and that they were going to rock the foundations of the school district. That is not on my radar, and in my discussions with the superintendent and the head of our HR department, that's not on any of our radar. I haven't talked to my other school board members about it, but it's not on the superintendent's radar. So, come to the table and talk. I mean, we owe it to our staff to have these discussions, because it is going to be very important on how we're not the ones that are paying by merit pay. It's the state. And, like it or not, it can mean, nothing to $9,000 to $10,000 for our teachers. And I think we need to be at the table discussing how that's at, and I think the union and the teachers need to be watching how that goes, and perhaps even letting their legislators know how they feel about it. It's very, very important. I mean, to me, $10,000 up or down for a teacher would be very, very important, and I think we need to all be paying attention on that, and maybe talk about it at every meeting where these things are going.
Yeah, I think we should too. I think we should be looking very carefully at what's coming down the pike. We've got a lot of career and technical issues that are coming up, along with best and brightest, and then the issue with vouchers, a 1,400 and a 1,900 student issue, one of which would impact us greatly. So I think we all have to be vigilant and look and see what's going on in Tallahassee. And tomorrow starts.
And a good point is our summer learning program is moving forward.
Yes.
But I know that the chambers of commerce and mayors across the state have come forward and said they want the state to do something on early learning. Especially 3 and 4 year olds, to help them be prepared for when they come to kindergarten, which is another good step forward. But again, there's only so much money, and I think they can't hear enough how important it is to support our public schools. And any of you that want to, let that word go across, that's what we're needing. Thank you.
It's been a good bit of the day watching the governor and the House and the Senate with their flowers at their desks and talk about the State of the Union. So we'll be interested to see how this session follows. Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, I just want to point out, like Ms. Brown said, the summer learning did go through the first committee.
In one house. But that's moving.
Right, and And so they've been very supportive of it. I mean, I don't know what legislators you speak to, but they've all been extremely supportive of that. And so I think that that's being looked very favorably. And to Ms. Brown's point, you know, I want to make sure that when we're, you know, talking to our teachers and looking at things that we have in the back of our mind, the recruitment and retention presentation that we had, and knowing how important that is, and knowing how important stability in the workplace is. And so I agree with Ms. Brown on those issues.
Anything else? Then let's move on into the hearing of citizens. Those of you that are going to speak have gotten cards from either side of the dais, and I have 5 cards here. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. I think we have someone who's going to alert you as to when the 3 minutes is up. We don't have a timer here. So you'll have 3 minutes. What?
He's got it down right there.
Oh, okay. Well, that works very well. All right. So each speaker will have 3 minutes, and please note and respect divergent viewpoints and civility. I'm not concerned about that from this wonderful group here. But when the 3 minutes is up, please stop. The first person is Richard Dooling. Richard, would you come forward, please?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Dooling. I'm a parent of a Venice High School senior, and I'm here to discuss the fear and retaliation at Venice High that parents and students live with. I have written every board member on this issue of my daughter being bullied by a coach and the threats that followed by the coach, the athletic director, and a vice principal. I received one response, and it was basically said, "I'm sorry the coach upset your daughter, but the school will have to handle this." This is the same school and administration that had already threatened consequences if we spoke out on this matter. That did not give me confidence this would be dealt with, but just swept under the rug, as it has with other parents. Others wanted to stand with me, but have seen how my daughter and I have been treated, being told that if the conversation left the room, that in the office that we had the meeting in, my daughter would pay a higher price. There is much more to this story. I am just shocked on how it has gone and the seeming lack of concern. That's all I have. Thank you.
Dr. Bowden?
I don't know if there's more than one speaker on this topic, so at the end of public comment, I'll be happy to
I don't think there is, but maybe. I'm not sure.
So we have received correspondence. It's my understanding that the school has not completed their investigation, that it's an open investigation at the school. I would encourage you to keep working with the school, but once the school concludes their investigation, if you should find the outcome of that investigation to be unsatisfactory, then your next step would be our executive director of high schools. But it's my understanding that they're still working the issue. If you believe otherwise, I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards, but we always ask the principal to be the first point of contact. Once he said, here's my findings, if you're unhappy with those findings, there is a next level for you to pursue.
Well, I'm not getting updated for obvious reasons,
Okay,
so
yeah.
I just, was here to express my concern.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madison Markham?
Hi. Is this one? No, that's not on. Oh, sorry. Hi, thank you everyone. My name is Madison Markham. I am a dual-enrolled senior at SCFCS, but I live in Sarasota, and my friends and family go to Sarasota County Schools. I'm also a member of Team Enough, which is a student-led organization that aims to end gun violence of all forms within our communities. I'm here today to strongly urge the school board members to pass a resolution to not arm public school teachers as allowed through SB 7030, which is about to be heard by the Senate. within the Sarasota County School District. Over the course of my 18 years of life, I have lived in 3 different states and thus gone to several schools as I have moved. In none of those schools, regardless of how much I loved my teachers, I would not feel comfortable with any of them being armed. It's not because I wouldn't trust my teachers, it is that the reality we face in this country today is that firearms in our schools potentially open the door to tragedy, and I don't want that door to be opened within our community. As a student, I acknowledge the many hats that our teachers must wear. They are educators, yes, but oftentimes take on roles for their students that is much like that of parents, nurses, therapists, coaches, and friends. Their job is so much more than curriculum, and they help shape our future generations into outstanding citizens. For them to focus on the training and then implementation of being armed is to take away from the time and attention that they spend on us students. With the introduction of frequent active shooter drills, armed guards on campus, more mental health resources, and other measurements, our schools already have safety precautions and preparations that make us feel protected. But arming teachers has the potential to make our schools feel more like prisons, not havens for learning and fun. Keeping firearms out of the classroom seems to be the whole point of our school safety initiatives, which is why we don't have them on campus by non-professionals. I feel that giving teachers firearms is counterproductive to this initiative. A recent survey done by Florida Atlantic University shows that 37% of Floridians support arming teachers. That means everybody else doesn't. I have yet to meet a student who agrees with the notion that teachers should be armed. In fact, it seems to me that the only advocates for arming teachers tend to be adults, not students. Please listen to us students on this issue. Our voices matter. I understand some, or all of you, I don't know, I haven't spoken with everyone, supports the notion that teachers should not be armed, which is why we are, I'm with Lynn, are imploring you to pass a resolution to not arm teachers. Not only will you be protecting our schools from harm, but also leading the way for other counties to pass resolutions as well. Thank you.
No clapping, please.
Madam Chair, could we put that on our workshop agenda to discuss whether or not we would want a resolution?
I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, let's do that, to put that on the next workshop agenda. Dr. Bowden, please. Lynn Hatamaki.
Good evening, Superintendent and board members and our student representative. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Lynn Hatamaki, and I was educated in the Sarasota County School District, beginning at Goshio. Most of my years were spent at Pineview, and I graduated from Sarasota High School. I am especially proud to be a retired Sarasota County school teacher. I taught at Gulfgate Elementary for 15 years with dedicated individuals, dedicated to student growth and achievement, and student safety as well. As you know, Senate Bill 7030 is making its way through committee in Tallahassee. This bill would allow districts to arm teachers per the Guardian Bill. Arming teachers presents its own unique set of dangers, potentially making a gun available to every student in the school. Guns have no place in the hands of teachers in our schools. So I'm here today to respectfully ask you to consider making a formal resolution to not let teachers be armed should this bill pass. This has already been done in Leon County, Hillsborough County, and Broward City Schools. Arming teachers is opposed by the American Federation of Teachers, the National Education Association, as well as the National Association of School Resource Officers. These professional organizations know the risks of arming teachers that will make to students, teachers, as well as to law enforcement and the school community at large. The questions that surround the reality of arming teachers is overwhelming. Would teachers leave their students to pursue an active shooter? Would they carry or store the weapon? Would responding officers identify a teacher as the active shooter? The possibility of friendly fire in a chaotic shooting situation is very real, not to mention the liability of arming teachers. I, for one, would not teach in a school where teachers were armed. Sarasota County Schools has worked diligently to harden their schools, to begin their own internal police force, and have even considered adopting Sandy Hook Promise programs. Your internal police force of experienced officers, besides being an armed presence per the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Safety Act, are able to interact with students, providing mentorship and being positive role models, as well as providing security. Teachers were meant to teach. So once again, I respectfully ask you to consider making a resolution not to arm teachers in Sarasota County Schools. Thank you.
Nathan Days.
Good evening, board members. My name is Nathan Davis. I am a resident in Sarasota. My daughter is a 6th grade student in Sarasota. I guess let me start with a quick story. About 5 weeks ago, my daughter came home and made us aware that other students had told her to go find a wire and hang herself. A few days later, my daughter attempted to give them what they wanted. By the grace of God, she failed. A month after being in the hospital, we finally have her beautiful smiling face back with us in our household. Within that month, we went to the board to talk to the sheriffs to see what can be done, what kind of justice we can get for bullying. There is no laws on the books. Florida state statute has a definition of what bullying is. There is no laws. Any repercussions seem to be left up to the schools themselves. There is no set standards of what they need to follow. We didn't even hear from my daughter's school about this incident. We had to hear it from my daughter. Me and my wife both sent emails to meet with this principal and the schools to no avail. My daughter's scared to death to go back to school. We are homeschooling her for the rest of the year. Thankfully, Miss Katrina Ward at the board helped us get that situated. But there needs to be something done. You know, whether it's a reporting system per child, when they get so many reports, an intervention needs to be done. We are teaching our children that are victims to dismiss or learn to just deal with what happened while there's no punishment being done to the children that are doing this. And if there is, we're not led to know what that is. I understand to an extent privacy reasons, but no student's privacy of what kind of punishment they receive should trump the life of another student that they're affecting that might be taking from us. This is going on with more families, not caring to mention them, but something has to be done. There has to be some type of regulations put in place that we can stop this before it gets too far. Kids will be kids, only go so far. Kids picking on each other, yes, we have to learn to deal with that to an extent, but when we're getting actual threats, when we're getting actual other students saying, go kill yourself, this is ridiculous. When our principals are not responding, when we had my wife went to a meeting Monday with the same principal. She didn't even remember it happened because she did not deal with it and she had somebody else deal with it. I
Dr.
thank you for your time.
Can somebody talk to
Yep.
him offline, please?
Laura, raise your hand. We have a very detailed bullying policy, and based on your account, I want to see why or why not that procedure wasn't followed. So I want to know the school and have your contact information so we can close the loop. Laura Kingsley is our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction. Unfortunately, our Executive Director for Secondary Schools, who would have authority over our middle schools, is not here, but Dr. Kingsley can get your information, and we will certainly follow up and close that loop with you.
Thank you.
Justin Willis.
Justin Willis. Do I have to give my address? No? Okay. Sorry. I'm used to being in here for the commission meeting. I feel like I should be following the rules. So I purposely am going to avoid three things that I came in to talk about. I'm going to skip over it, but I do want to leave one thing, avoiding talking about it, but somewhat talking about it. When you negotiate with the teachers, please consider having a discussion about covering all the family's insurance, as we've set a precedent for that being part of the conversation. I wasn't going to bring it up, but Ms. Brown brought up the contract, so it kind of weighed on my mind. Please consider making that part of the conversation. We've now set a precedent to the teachers that this is something that they can kind of expect to negotiate with by the precedent that was set. Please keep that in mind when you go to negotiation with them. Moving on from that, I want to invite you guys out to Cranberry Elementary School on March 12th at 10 a.m. AMVETS 312 is donating a flag to the school, and they are going to do an official flag raising ceremony at Cranberry March 12th at 10 a.m. Madam Chair, we had spoke about, I apologize, I have a list of a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to try and make them as short and quick so I can get through all of it. We had discussed the Northport Advisory Board. I just want to see where we're at on that. If we can make it a formal conversation here, especially while we're in Northport, I think that would be a great opportunity. Cranberry is amazing. There is nothing more I can say about our school. It is by far something that I am extremely proud of in our city. We are doing amazing things in amazing ways for these kids. It is truly a school that has realized that community partnerships is extremely beneficial to this district. So I just want to shout out Mr. P. We could not ask for a better principal. I mean, it's sitting in that meeting when the teachers and us parents were finding creative ways of saying, we only want somebody that lives in Northport. Do not consider anybody that doesn't. We had a very specific reason. There is no better person that could have filled Linda Daniel's shoes than Mr. P. Ms. Zucker, we spoke about 3 years ago about a playground for the VPK program at Cranberry Elementary School. It has been 3 years. That playground equipment is still there. It is now past that 12-year period by about 2 years that you had mentioned to me. So if you could please follow up with that, I'd greatly appreciate it. There was a conversation about the booster programs. Ms. Brown, I want to thank you for what you said and recognizing the difference between Northport and the rest of the district. Northport is a very different animal. Our parents are the working class. We don't have the arts programs to offset the funding that we do. We don't have, the Main Street district that's, may I ask for an extension of time?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Not allowed, but I will talk to you offline about some of these issues. Be happy to do so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Linda Yates.
Good evening, board members, Chair. Great to see you down here. Welcome to Northport and also to the audience. I just wanted to reemphasize the excitement that's going on here in Northport over the aquatic center that is coming to Northport, that is right there located across from the high school and right by the middle school. And I look forward to the conversations that, we started many years back. And this is coming to fruition. Northport is evolving. We got to the point that this is becoming a reality. And it's really great. It's a great opportunity for Northport High School students and even younger, as well as the young kids in this community and all of the swim programs that are very necessary. So please keep that open mind and open ear as far as, ways that we can collaborate, work together, and obviously any assistance that would come with that, along with the programming that we're looking to do. So thank you all for your service and what you do. And it's been a great to hear some of the improvements happening at Northport High School. And I do want to recognize that it was a pleasure to see your student here who has participated in our mock commission meetings. So good to see you back. You look perfect in that seat. So hopefully you'll keep in mind, serving the communities. And the other thing, I was sitting here and I was listening about Northport High School. We have something that at the time that it was built, it was fairly unique in our Performing Arts Center. It is a first-class facility. But also, what happens with that is because it's at a school facility, it's not necessarily the widely known. The awareness is maybe not there that we have this phenomenal place, which was through the collaboration of the school board and just the way that the Suncoast Technical College came to fruition. So there's many examples of how you all in our city and city leaders work together with the community to do these wonderful things. I just got to thinking that maybe we need something that could differentiate and just make that stand out a little bit. And what a great program for possibly a mural or something of art outside of that building that does truly bring awareness to it for people to turn their heads and say, wow, what is that? Just some ideas and any ways that you all might think of, ways that we can get that awareness out. There are other school facilities now that have Performing Arts Center, plus there's a lot of those type of arts going around and going on in different facilities. So thank you all for that consideration, and I will bring it to my commission.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Jill Luke? The Honorable Jill Luke?
I am Jill Luke, and I usually sit where your council's sitting. Thank you for coming here, having this meeting done within Northport. Words can't express the pride that I feel within my heart for the excellence of our staff, of our students. I'm just so proud. It's emotional to have the pride that we have and to see the excellence that comes through our students and the success that they have. And thank you. Thank you for that. We're not a red-headed stepchild. We're a leader, and we're showing it. And I'm very proud of that leading that we're doing. We will never be a red-headed stepchild. We're leaders of
Just
love.
say a stepchild. Don't put the redheaded in there.
I know. I love redhead, but that's what was mentioned. But we're leaders of love. It was mentioned that the word love happened a lot. It happens all the time in Northport. The notes and the emails that you may get, it's because we love our kids. We love our community. We love what we have. So those are why you get the letters. It's not because we feel like we're lesser or we're the stepchild or whatever. No, it's because we love and we're leaders of love. So thank you. I will ditto the last two people who came and spoke. You know, I agree with what they have stated. And girl, you're always welcome to come sit there.
Thank you so much.
I love y'all.
Thank you. We love you too. And that ends the hearing of citizens. Thank you all for speaking. We really appreciate it. Are there any additions or corrections to our agenda, Dr. Bowden?
No, ma'am, there are no additions or corrections to the consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda. Move
Second.
approval.
Second? Did you give me a second? Okay.
No.
All right, so we're voting where? On the screen? On this screen?
Yeah, the little one.
So do we have any discussion? Okay, got it. Okay, so if we have no discussion, please vote. We have a new system. It's a little different.
Aye.
Did it work?
Yeah, mine did.
I mean, that part did, but I don't get any totals here. The consent
Chair.
agenda passed 5-0. Is that correct?
I believe that Ms. Ziegler needs to
Ms.
vote
Ziegler.
audibly.
Mrs. Ziegler, did you vote? Okay.
Maybe the baby woke up.
Perhaps it would be best to do it as a voice vote.
Let's do a voice vote, yes. Mr. Robinson?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Zucker?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Yes.
And I vote yes. It carries unanimously, 5-0.
I would move that the amendment to the Charter for Student Leadership Academy be approved as presented.
Do I have a second? Is there a second?
Not for me.
Discussion? Mr. Robinson?
Did we get a second?
No, we didn't get a second.
How can I just?
Want me to talk?
I'd like to make a comment.
I think that's a great idea.
This item is to consider the amendment to the charter of the Student Leadership Academy, which is a high-performing charter school. High-performing is a designation established by the legislature, and a charter school has to meet certain standards to be labeled high-performing by the state. And the Student Leadership Academy is, as defined, a high-performing charter. So that's not my subjective opinion or the superintendent's subjective opinion. That is something that a state designation. The legislature has given special rights to high-performing charter schools. One of those is to authorize it to increase a grade level, to expand a grade level if it so chooses. And that is what this amendment is about, expanding from 6 through 8 to add grade 9. The legislature has limited the discretion on behalf of school boards to consider those according to section 1002.331. It says, I won't read it verbatim, but basically high-performing charter schools are authorized to such an expansion as long as they can do it within the confines of their facility, which I don't understand is an issue here, and that the school board, they have to notify the school board, and the school board has 90 days to amend their charter. So that's what's being presented here. Obviously, your school board members, you can do what you wish, but it's my job to tell you what the statute requires in this context.
Well, I understand that the statute does require, or does say that they can do this with or without our approval, but we are actually asking the school board to distinguish that. We have Mrs. Zucker, who made a motion. Mrs. Brown, do you have something to say?
I do. I know they're allowed to do this, perhaps. The law says they can expand a grade, but I don't agree with them. I haven't heard any resounding reason why they need to do this. They say that to help those students who aren't prepared to go on to high school. Well, one of the jobs of a middle school is to prepare their students to go on to high school. So if they're telling me they failed in that job and they need another year to do that, I'm like, why? And I received, that argument came to me from the public sending this to me, and I'm like, exactly. Right. If they didn't do it in 3 years, what makes them think they're going to do it in another one? Because when that child will then go into high school, coming into high school in a sophomore year, it'll be an even more difficult job for that student to integrate into that school. So I don't think it's in the student's best interest to stay in that school a year, whether it might help the school fill some empty seats, but I don't think it's in the best interest of the child and the student, and I think that's what we need to be looking at, is what's in the best interest of the student, not what's in the best interest of a high-performing charter school. The charter school is doing a good job, or at least I thought it was doing a good job, but now if they're telling me they aren't preparing their students for high school, I then wonder, why aren't you doing that? So I would think that they would have to, and I don't know, they get the high performing for some of the grades they give, but I think it's more than just grades, what you have to do in a school. You've got to prepare them for the future.
Mrs. Zucker?
I made the motion not because I believe in it, because I made the motion because I don't want to encumber the board for a lawsuit, because we will have to pay our own attorney to defend us, and we will have to pay the plaintiff's attorney as well. So rather than doing that, I've made the motion. I don't believe it's in the best interest of students to not move ahead into high school in 9th grade. I think you should stay with your cohort, because you have friends that are going to the high school, and you lose that touch. It's just not going to be the same. But at the same time, we have to decide, do we want to spend money on a lawsuit? Because there will be a lawsuit, because it says we shall. And it's different than you may, you can think about it or whatever. You shall.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, like I've said many times, I agree with Ms. Brown, but I think I agree with her for a different reason. Student Leadership Academy is not just a good school, it's a great school. I think they do a wonderful job. I know teachers who work there. I know students who have gone there. I know parents who have put their kids there. I've known parents who were worried about some of the district managed public schools, and they wanted a smaller size, and SLA fit the needs of those parents well, and they were very satisfied, and they were very well adjusted. In fact, we've had a couple student representatives sit on our board who graduated from SLA, ended up becoming president of the student class a couple years ago. But I understand Ms. Zucker's point about the lawsuit, and so I take my responsibility very seriously about the fiduciary oversight. But even more seriously, I take the issue of educating the children. And so I've had the opportunity to sit in on a lot of the charter review process and the charter review committee. And I think our staff does a wonderful job vetting those charter applications, making sure it has the right curriculum, making sure that it's financially sound, making sure that all the resources are needed. And I think adding on to a high school in 9th grade is a rather unique experience. I don't think it's the same as adding from an elementary to a middle school. I think high school is distinct and different level of curriculum issues than from a middle school. There's the tracking of grades, there's the advisory process, there's the plug-in with the high school to make sure that those kids who go to SLA, the 9th grade, and how they're going to integrate into that system. Will they have honors programs? Will they have AP classes? When you start talking in a high school, I think a lot of those issues come up, and I would have felt a lot better about this issue if it had gone in front of the Charter Review Committee and had been vetted through that process, because I know how diligently staff does during that Charter Review Committee process, and I would have had more faith in this and doing this. So absent that input from staff from the Charter Review Committee, I'm going to have to agree with Ms. Brown, and I think personally at this point, since we've been talking about it so long, this clearly has failed for lack of a second. I don't know how we could even entertain to see how this motion has not failed for lack of a second, given the time that has passed since the motion was made.
Well, I would like to just give some comments, because I am not in favor of this either. I've been very close to this school and care a great deal about it, and yet I haven't heard from anyone at the school about this other than a board member a couple of months ago, and I suggested to him that he look at another charter school in the area that had made just this decision, which I was against 2 or 3 years ago. And I said, no, I don't think it's a great idea. And that charter school went ahead and did 9th grade for a year and then said, we're not doing that anymore, and went back. Why do we have more charter schools that are, K-8 is because it's easier to run a charter school in a K-8 than it is in a high school situation. And only Imagine and Sarasota Military Academy have been successful in high schools. High schools are a big jump, a heavy lift, and students need to get integrated into the school, the high school, and have all the opportunities. If you don't get things done in the 9th and 10th grade, then you are not going to be able to fulfill those career and college opportunities that you need to fulfill in your junior and senior year. It's very costly to put together a 9th grade, and it's very costly to develop that and develop that curriculum, but you will not have the same kind of opportunities that a student would have at Venice High School. Mrs. Brown.
I want to temper those comments that I made earlier. I didn't mean to say that the school was failing. It was failing those students that if they don't think those kids can go on. I mean, they're doing a very good job. They're a high-performing school. There's no doubt about that. So I do agree, choke, with Mr. Robinson.
You rarely ever say that.
But I hope this doesn't lead to a lawsuit. I hope there's another outcome. And that outcome is that the board is concerned about this, because I don't think the school has made a good case to us why we should do this. So maybe they can come to us and you know, somehow make their case on why this is good. But I hope we can send them a message by listening to what we're saying here. Really think about this hard, because, you know, are you sure you're going to have enough students that even want to stay that are going to make it feasible for you? I mean, there's a lot of costs involved. And if you only have, you know, 25, 50, even 100 students in the 9th grade here, it's like, that's going to be a lot of expense you're going to have to put in. And I think maybe the students who think they might be wanting to stay in the school, when they see what kind of courses you're going to have to offer versus what they can get in the other schools, may change their mind. So I hope our action doesn't draw you to a lawsuit, but instead it draws you to rethink what it is you want to do. And if you still want to go forward, come and make your case to us.
Mrs. Ziegler?
I'm trying to hope I can comment without some feedback. Mr. Hardy, I have a question. I know it was stated that this would open us up to exposure for being sued, but in the event this was not successful for approval at board level, what would the process be? They would go to the state for approval?
Well, first I'd say the statute gives the board 90 days to act. So this request was made fairly recently. So what I've heard is that the board is open, perhaps at least, to further conversation on the issue. So I would think that would be perhaps the most productive way to move forward, assuming the board is not going to approve this, which doesn't seem like that's going to happen tonight, and that the school would like to consider the expansion despite what the board has said this evening. So the statute, it says if a charter school notifies the sponsor of its intent to expand, the sponsor shall modify the charter within 90 days. So right now there's a charter with the school. A charter is another word for a contract between the school and the school board. So that can only be modified with the school and the school board's approval. If push comes to shove and the argument is made that the school board does not have discretion because of the statute, then the way the school could challenge that would go to court and say, judge, tell the school board they have to do this because they have no discretion under the statute. But again, given what I've heard today from the board, there's at least some desire to listen and to further discuss it within that 90-day window if the school decides, after listening to what the board had to say, that it wishes to proceed.
I'd like to hear from the executive director and the board chair. Would that be appropriate?
I don't know if you're there, because I haven't heard it from anyone at SLA either, and I wanted to see if we could move the table this item for the discussion. I just wanted to ensure that there is proper time frame.
Well, right now the motion was made. It was not seconded, so it dies. There's nothing, so there is nothing. Obviously, the board the statute gives the board 90 days to act, so there could be, if there is going to be further discussion at either the staff level or workshop, I don't know if that's the desire of the board and the superintendent.
Dr. Bowden?
Well, seeing as this fails for lack of a second, I would ask if there's any direction that you have for staff i.e. would you like for me to invite them to a future board meeting, workshop? Would you like for me to reach out to them and express your concerns about the adding of the 9th grade? I guess the item in and of itself has failed, and now I'm seeking some direction from you.
Yes. Mr. Robinson?
For just one board member, for me, facility is not just a physical structure. I want to know, do they have the curriculum in place? Do they have a biology lab, which is a physical structure? I want to know, are they going to be able to handle the interface with the Venice High School? It's not just, do they have an empty space? I want to know if they actually have the processes and the curriculum in place to be able to teach a 9th grade, because like I had said earlier, I believe 9th grade is separate and distinct from a middle school. There are unique things that go on with the high school, and so I think facility encompasses more than just, do you have a desk for the kid? So I want to know from staff before I hear from SLA that our staff, who are the subject matter experts as far as I'm concerned in the county, much more than just someone who does a middle school charter, I would rather hear from our high school experts to know with the SLA, have they planned this out? Is it what are the chances of success? We don't just want to make sure, we want to make sure that they're set up for success. And are they doing that? So just having SLA come in and tell me we're good to go and we're very confident, that for me, for one board member, that's not enough for me. I want to hear from, maybe it's the Charter Review Committee light. I don't know how you would do that, but I want to hear from our curriculum. I want to hear from our high school specialists that yes, that they believe that SLA is good to go. I don't want to just hear from SLA saying that they're good to go. Does that make sense, Dr. Bowden? Okay.
And I would like to know the processes that they have in place. Like you said, the science lab or whatever we're talking about. There's quite a lot to setting up a 9th grade.
And teachers, I mean, isn't it a different certification for high school? I mean, isn't it a K-8? I mean, you need a different certification if you're going to be teaching high school than if you're teaching middle school.
Well, some of the middle school certifications extend through 9th grade. As an example, mathematics is a 5 through 9 in many cases. But the question of certification is, do you currently have staff appropriately certified? I don't want to make any assumptions, but that certainly would be a question that if you asked me to do some due diligence, I would have questions around advising in regards to how are you working with the program at the school they would go to in their sophomore year to make sure the appropriateness of the courses that they're taking. So there are a number of questions, but yes, certification would be central to that, is that they have to have appropriately certified teachers to teach biology, which is different than a middle grades science certification.
And perhaps ask them to have discussions with that school that had it and pulled it back. What school was that, Jane?
What school?
The school that went to 9th grade and then
Montessori.
Pulled it, the Montessori school. They maybe talk to their staff, find out some of the problems they ran into, and did you think about that?
Well, I had suggested that a couple of months ago.
Great minds think alike.
Maybe it's not a suggestion anymore.
But I think the due diligence, yes, is what we're looking for. Bridget, do you have anything else?
No, I think that we all share the same concerns that I need to address.
Very good.
Okay. Anything for you, Mr. Hardy? Okay. So that ends the new business, and now we'll talk about announcements and communications. Does anyone have an announcement? Shirley Brown?
I just wanted to comment on some of the comments that were made. I believe it was Mr. Willis was talking about family insurance, that we had set a precedent. I've got a daughter, a single mother with a child, and she's on my case all the time about getting family insurance. But the problem with that is that, we've got, 5,000 employees? Yes, ma'am. And not all of our employees have families. And when you're talking about giving somebody a benefit that will cost between, I'm talking ballpark, between $8,000 and $20,000 a year, you've got other members that are saying, well, what about me? That's not fair to me. So you have to get something so it's a benefit that only benefits some employees. Maybe we can look at looking at an outside policy that would just be for families that might be more, but we have been thinking about that, but we can't just blanket say we're gonna cover all families, because we get kickback from other employees that are saying, it's not fair to me, I don't have a family. So negotiating with one versus negotiating with 5,000 is a big difference. As far as the comments about our performing arts centers, I'm thrilled to be seeing ads in the paper for performances at Riverview, and I think isn't Venice having the Oak Ridge Boys, and so they're having all these different concerts that are coming up that, you know, aren't even from the school, and I think, you know, Venice has got a program out. I'm not sure about
Well,
any of the other schools.
we have a nonprofit there that does
But there are outside people coming in and putting on shows for our community, and you know, Northport does that too. You're wanting some art, I would look at maybe Embracing Our Differences has those large panels. Maybe you could use some of them, even that are done by your students, because I know there are there. But if not, look at something like, have a contest in your school to do something like that, Embracing Our Differences, and talk to them about how they put it up, and maybe have something that goes around. You can talk to them about how they pay for those and all of that. But that might help, or even, you know, have your students do sculptures out there. Might work. Or even members of your community.
Thank you. Anybody else? The next monthly works, Caroline Zucker.
Why do you have such a problem with my name?
I don't know.
Oh, what I just wanted to say is that I never receive a notice regarding anything that's going on in Northport High School. So I go to a lot of plays at all the various high schools, but I never receive anything from Northport. So if you're talking about getting people into and having it open as a community theater, then you need to advertise. If you're not even advertising to your school board, that's a challenge.
But we love coming to Northport. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you very much for having us. It's been wonderful. The next monthly work session is Tuesday, March 26, 2019 at 8:30 a.m. And the next monthly regular board meeting will be Tuesday, March the 26th, 2019 at 3 o'clock. We're adjourned.